So, hello friends, I'm Gennia Nuh, the lead project for the project Story 11 project by to the fourth session of the. Though Santa is a mythical creation, most of us are blessed with the participation of our parents, especially the mothers in our life who look after us, take care of us, fulfill our wishes, and guide us to the right path. This project aims at providing insightful guidance and evoke interest in certain aspects of life that may shape the life of children better. Today I'm privileged to have Suyogya Awasthy, Diksha, and Ishita Gupta this evening, and we are going to discuss books that induct children into gender equality. So let me begin with introducing the panelists. Mr. Suyogya Awasthi is a practicing attorney and has a wide litigation experience at various courts and forums in India. He runs a web portal for law students and teachers. He believes in diversification and is pursuant of it. He has excelled in many extracurricular activities throughout his life. As a hobby, he is an avid reader and has a penchant for bikes, and he believes it instills a sense of integrity in him and encourages him to cater to his inner calling. Diksha is a student of literature, pursuing her master's at Ambedkar University, Delhi. Apart from books, she also loves baking and exploring historical places. On rainy days, she opens her window and writes fantasy stories. Her female fantasy heroes form an entertaining cacophony in her head at all times. And so it's no surprise that Diksha often zones out during lectures at university. Isha Gupta, one of the content creators at TBC, is based out of Jaipur. She is an avid reader and children's book enthusiast. She loves to read and write content around children's child psychology. Ishita says she remembers her beautiful and fun filled childhood through kids' books. Apart from children's books, she loves to read biographies and self help books. She is great admirer of writings of Sudha Murthy. She is a company secretary by profession and working full time in a corporate job. She is a spiritual person and has deep knowledge of meditation as she practices it herself. So let's set sailing. Could you tell us about certain stories that introduced you to the notion of gender equality when you were young? I would like to begin the session with Suyogya sir. If you please, sir.
Hello, hello.
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Yeah. So, throughout my years of growing, my interaction with society came as a vital factor for me to ascertain the true importance of gender equality. Further, throughout my family, many of my female relatives and my family members have been and were always given due amount of liberty and time to hone their skills and make a better life for themselves. So, it seems it really played a quite big role during my childhood, and seeing the my my family members, female family members excelling in different fields at different profession and making a path and doing good for the society. So yes, I believe it did play a great role.
Thank you, sir. Ishita ma'am, if you would like to reply to the same question. Ma'am, you are muted. Ma'am, you are muted.
Sure, sure, sure. Am I audible now?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, sure. So, yeah, as you asked, the books that I remember reading as a child that introduced me to the idea of gender equality. Uh, like in school, we used to read, in the curriculum, many such stories. But I remember like when it struck me about gender equality was when I was in sixth class. And not particular story, but in civics, we were been given a lesson, or like there was a lesson in our book called prejudice and discrimination. So that was the point when I realized that this is happening and this is real, because I was seeing already in my family, like how I was being treated, and like how different I was being treated with my brother. Like he was told not to involve in household chores, but I was being told to, do all of these things, learn cooking and learn cleaning, and he was not being told to do all of these things, despite he was just 4 years younger to me. So like that really infuriated me, and at the same time my teachers told me, like, when you are young and you just listen to your teachers and everything. So she used to quote these examples. See, students, you must be seeing this in your house, and so this is gender inequality. So that was the point when I really understood, yeah, this is happening. Like I was 11. So before that, like a child does not understand the idea of inequality at first. So might be it might be happening, but I was being raised in a family wherein education was really not a point to not let a girl study, because in rural area what we see is that the main focus around, like the main agenda around gender inequality is like a girl is not been like allowed to go to school right from the young age. But that was not happening with me. So when it happened, like started happening at like choti choti cheezon mein, for example, I would say that this household wali thing, and also like in many other things, like my brother, he was being allowed to play outside with other kids, and I was being told to stay inside after attaining a certain age, when body starts just distinguishing between what a girl is and what a boy is. So that really started happening. And that lesson in civics, I remember that it was chapter 6. So that was my first like point when I understood the idea at the age of 11 about gender inequality that is happening, and how we can attain equality in those terms.
Thank you so much. Now, coming to Diksha. Diksha, would you like to elaborate on the same question?
Yeah. So I was thinking, when I was younger, I mean, I've always very much been into books and, very much a reader. And I remember I used to go to the book fair with my father, and we used to buy all of these fairy tale books. And I love those books, but somehow by teachers, by my sister and other people, these books were always discouraged in a way. And it was only later when I grew up that I realized, the inherent genderedness of these fairy tales, where it's always the man who is coming and saving, and the girl is always like waiting for a prince or a knight to come and save them. And it always made me feel like, even if a character, female character, is in the middle of a thrilling adventure or something, she's always the victim in that, and she's never the person who is saving somebody. And that is something that, as I grew up, perhaps I understood it better, like, but in my childhood I did end up internalizing that. And like Ishita said, like, the difference between girls and boys, from childhood they are taught to like stay inside, while boys are told to go outside. That also sort of played into that, because I was always home, I was reading books, I was sort of enacting them on my own, those fairy tales. But my boy I'm not boyfriends, sorry, friends who were boys, they would be out, they would be playing cricket, and I am sitting inside and I am reading those fairy tales, and I'm also getting made fun of for being addicted to these fairy tales.
Yeah, that's a tough call. So, yes, thank you so much. Now, moving on to the second question of the session. Do you recall any book which truly shows gender equality, or most books still show the journey towards seeking equality? And what do you think that contemporary generation, I mean, is it still ready for an equal society where women have equal liberties? I would start with Diksha this time.
Yeah, so again, I'll go back to the books I read in my childhood, and those were, I think, there was this huge phase where I was reading Goosebumps by R.L. Stein, these series. And I mean, they're not very direct with notions of gender equality, but if you read them carefully, though the narrator in these books in the beginning, if they're not introduced as a boy or a girl, or if we don't know their name immediately, you don't figure out if they are a boy or a girl. And that is something that is so ingenious in those books, because these characters are made with such an they're made in an ambiguous way, that you don't think of it in terms of traditional gender roles, like girls are supposed to play these kinds of house, they're supposed to play house, or they're supposed to play with dolls, or they're only supposed to do these things, while the boys are always going out to play with their friends. It's not like that. And that is something that I now can really appreciate, because through my childhood, coming from that age where I was reading fairy tales to starting to read Goosebumps, and there are no differences between boys and girls that are sort of imposed upon the children who are reading these books. That was wonderful. But in general, I do feel that most books are still, yes, they are involved in that journey towards seeking equality, more than more than being a reflection of kind of equality that has already been reached. Because even if you think of popular books like Harry Potter, we do see, like, okay, the character of Hermione Granger being shown as the brightest witch for age, but we do see that her know-it-all nature is sort of seen as a negative thing. She's seen as bossy. She's not praised by other characters for being the extremely intelligent person that she is. And it's Harry who, if he can he can conjure a Patronus, and he's praised by every single person just because he can conjure a Patronus, while you are completely ignoring the fact that Hermione can do so many other spells. Most of those things Harry cannot do, but she is seen with a negative sort of connotation, while Harry isn't. And again, that is a reflection of how we see society as well, because think about why these books are so popular in the first place. Would they have been as popular if it was the girl who lived as opposed to the boy who lived? Because I don't feel that would happen. There are so many amazing fantasy books out there that have a female character and the as a protagonist, but they're not as popular as Harry Potter is. And that's somehow our own failure as a society, because we do sort of see boys, males as center of an adventure, and that is just perpetuated all the time. So yeah, so we do need to do better as a contemporary society to, like, accept these narratives where the girl is the center of the story instead of just the boys.
Yes, we can also find in other books as well, such as Rick Riordan. He is also a very popular author among for young adult fiction. If you see the
Yeah.
Percy Jackson series and all, you can see that the always in whatever series that he had wrote, whether the Kane Chronicles or whatever, everywhere the boy or the
Mm.
man seems to take the center position, whereas women are there obviously, and women are wise, they are thoughtful, they know, they have a kind of gut feeling or instinct that works in them in order to make the protagonist means the main character aware that something is wrong or something is right, but never in the center. They are always like the sidekick. Even in Harry Potter, she's like the sidekick. Ron is also the sidekick. Somewhere it tries to dilute in order to bring means to dilute the sidekickiness. They also bring in
Mhm.
another male character, but still she is always the sidekick. So yes, yes, that was obviously one point. Yeah, thank you so much. Thank you, Diksha. Now coming on to Ishita, could you please tell means give your take on the same question as to which book that you have read means that you can recall giving you a concept of gender equality, and whether these books are have sought gender equality or are still in the quest of seeking equality. And what is your take as to the current fiction that are being released or published, and what is their take on gender equality? Have we reached that stage, or are we still far away?
Okay. So, okay, am I audible? Yeah, my mic is on. Yeah. So here I would like to disagree with Diksha a bit, as she quoted about Harry Potter, because you see when we talk about gender equality, like here in the conversation, it has happened already. Like we want to see female not being as a sidekick in is as you like shared, and we just want like women should be the main character, boy must not be the main character, because it has happened from the past that we are seeing boys as the main character. But the term itself means gender equality. So men and women should be seen as equal. So here, like in Harry Potter, what like I have been seeing these movies and have read the books already, like in my childhood already. So at that point of time I realized that like here I would like to disagree with Diksha, as she mentioned that Hermione was being like was being seen in a negative picture for being know it all. And Harry, like she as she quoted, like he was being able to like conjure the Patronus, and Hermione was able to do so many spells, but still he was being looked up to. uh, so here I would like to disagree a little, because you see like those were the like uh, nature or the quality of the person that would be displayed. But in the terms of like the gender equality, it was very well being displayed in those books or movies, as I have felt. Because see, if we speak about Quidditch, it's a game wherein both men and women, they play together. But in real life, we don't see that happening. Girls have their own teams, boys have their own teams, and that generally happens in our world. Because but in Harry Potter, that J.K. Rowling has portrayed that girls can equally play with men, and they both can compete with each other, be in one team and still compete with each other. So that was the thing that I really liked. And also in terms of opportunities, if you see like in the ministry, there were like female what we say representation as well as the male representation. So we can here see that gender equality was being displayed. And so I believe that Harry Potter is like one of those books that really inducted me as a child into gender equality. And as you mentioned, like as you asked that like as a contemporary society, are we moving towards or are we accepting gender equality as of now? So what I believe, like what I am seeing around me, like people of my age are having kids, and like my biggest, like my elder sisters or my elder brothers are, they have their own kids, and how they are parenting their kids, it's like very different in the sense that we were being like raised. In the society also in general is changing like very much. And the school curriculum and teachers, like we are the people who have suffered the wrath of gender inequality, and we are the only one who are going to solve this problem. So yeah, I believe that people are like moving towards achieving gender equality in not in a like major sense or a broader sense, but yeah, like the steps are being taken, and every individual is being very mindful that how they should like lead their lives, so that their kids could understand that there should be equality in terms of opportunities, or in like in terms of everything. You cannot say a woman to just to do heavy stuff while she is on her period, but we can expect men to be a little sensitive towards her. So this is the kind of gender equality that we should talk about.
Yes, I do agree with Ishita as well. Like, she has thought about the sensitivity, means more than the equality. She has thought about the, means she talked about the gender sensitivity, where people should be considerate about each other. And the thing is that equality the in terms of whatever nature has brought us together, like we obviously, means this is a accepted fact that women are physically weaker than men. I'm not sure if somebody disagrees with me on the statement, but yes, women are in general physically weaker than men. But at the same time, in terms of cerebral capacity, they can be at par with each other. And somehow, if we have to concentrate on Harry Potter in general in the series, uh, it is a known fact that Harry would not have been able to go as far as he did without Hermione's help and without Hermione's guidance. She was the one who was actually the leading light. She was the beacon of hope, and that Harry unflinchingly followed. So yes, definitely. And also, yes, you have to be sensitive about each other, that a man should be sensitive towards a woman, and a woman should be equally sensitive towards a man. As to each and everyone has their certain shortcomings, as well as, means the pros and cons both are there in each and every gender, and both have to be sensitive and then equally progress in the society. Yes, I thank you for the making for this point. Now, if I move on to Suyogya, what do you think, sir? What is your take on this particular question?
Yeah, to some extent, I agree with Ishita as well as Diksha. But being a practicing litigant, I have closely observed, the everlasting relationship between law and society, and how the former paves a way for better social fabric, right? So throughout my list of reading, I always ensure that there always remains a fine line between fiction and reality, and where the interaction of law and conflicts of the opposite gender has been showcased. Right here, we are talking about Harry Potter, and then we have also talked about the reality as well. So somewhere we need to create a fine line of difference, right? We cannot judge a gender equality, a broad topic, on the basis of Harry Potter. If I am making sense, it's a very broad sense, and we cannot justify gender equality on the basis of
Yeah,
Harry Potter, right?
yes,
Uh,
definitely.
and when we say, like, and if we talk about the contemporary period, what's the status quo is, right? So as Ishita's used told that female are usually weaker in physical strength. I totally disagree with on this part. And as talked about the cabinet part by Ishita, the current position is that there's a more number of female candidates than male in the current situation in the cabinet, in the position portfolios, holding the major positions. And now a president of India, right, Draupadi Murmu, she is holding the topmost position. So we can't say that they are the weak, they are physically weak, right? Because a person with strength can only handle all these situations at the top and the bottom. She can do the household work as well as she can fight on the field as well. So you cannot say that female is a weaker, so in the society. Now coming to the other point, I would like to say, in today's current situation as well, we want a mother, we want a sister, we want a mother-in-law, we want a daughter-in-law, we want a sister-in-law, but we don't want a daughter, right? So is this something good? Like what parents expect? We need a boy, we need a boy. Why not a girl? But you want a daughter-in-law, you want a sister-in-law, but you don't want a daughter. This is not at all legit. And it's happening not only in India but in the global world as well. And that's why the ratio is declining. We say that we are the progressing country, developing country, and all these things we are putting up GNP, GDP, GNH, everything. But where the root of the Mother Earth, we are forgetting her, we are disrespecting her. The crimes are increasing. Why? The the thing is, the ratio is declining, and we have forgotten how to respect the mother, the female of a nation, I believe. So yeah, gender equality, it's really needed. And if I talk about the books which I've read, I would like to mention some of the books. The Liberation of Sita by C. Vijayashri, Homecoming and Other Stories by Indrani Barua. I'm currently reading that. The other books which really inspired me, the one is this: woman versus capitalism. Why we can't have it all in a free market economy by Wesley Price. Little Woman by Louisa May Alcott. You must read these books, and then you will realize what a great and major role a female plays. I being a male, today we classify sigma male, alpha male, beta male. Why? Why males need this classification? But a female, as a female, it herself is enough. She don't need to be alpha female, beta female, gamma female. Being a female herself is enough. And I salute all the females in this case. And I believe gender equality should be there in future as well. Thank you.
Well, that gives us a reality check as to because we were talking only about the fictional world, but he has given us a reality check as to what the condition of women is in general, and that too in the physical world that we inhabit. And also a reality check as to the perspective of strength in itself, because he has talked about strength. We have talked about physical strength in the sense the brute force that we talk about. He has talked about strength, which is mental strength, which gives an idea as to the resilience of women, the continuous working of women without tiring. That is also considered to be strength, and that is something that women have. And yes, I loved that answer of Suyogya. So yes, and also there's new books that are coming up. For example, the Liberation of Sita. Yes, and think about the new mythological books that are coming, which is re-innovating the women characters, and think about how they are bringing in a new essence as to the concept of gender equality in Indian literature in itself. That gives us a new that gives us a new perspective as to what gender is all about, what equality is all about, and what gender equality in itself stands for a nation, which is again a progressing nation, so as to say. Now, coming to the third question of the session. Now, in this fast moving world where we are still debating or battling with the basic demands of gender equality, how can books become an effective tool in inculcating it to the children, the inculcating gender equality in children? I would like to begin it with Ishita this time.
So, yeah, the question I have in my front as well. How effective can books become, like in inculcating gender equality to children? So, what I believe from my experience of being a child is that, uh, when we are a child, that age is very impressionable. And whatever we learn at that moment, whether good or bad, it stays with us, till whole of our lives. So we should be very, like, as adults now, like what I practice now whenever I like see a child, whenever I know I have a duty to teach something to this child. So I become, very, like, I become very aware ki what I am going to put in his mind. So this way gender equality can be taught, like from like with simple activities, just telling, normalizing, like in the world we associate pink color with girls, or blue color with boys. So just making them aware that if someone is going to tell you, then this does not, like, this is not the case, or we can just simply tell them, this is a foolish idea. So girls to like thing that is been built around that boys should not cry, and girls can express their emotions. All of these things can really be taught with some, activities kind of books, wherein, children just color and draw, or like those books that I remember in my childhood wherein we had some dotted like dots, and we had to make lines with that. Or maybe simple books like teaching alphabets, A for this, B for that. So something creative, some, I believe that I should write my own books in these lines. A creative writer should come up, and he should or she should build these, like make these kinds of books, so that very subtly we can teach children how to behave in the society, and how to normalize things that people now like we see as a discriminating factor, but just making that thing in a point in the mind of that child, so that when he's in his impressionable age, or she is in her impressionable age, so she can learn that thing right away from her childhood, and that thing can stay with her or with him, like till whole of their lives. And that's how they can behave and become a responsibly, gender equally like people in the society. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Now, coming again to Suyogya, yes, as moments, listening to your previous answer, you have a wide range of studies. Means it's not just one kind of book that you are means inclined towards. You have a huge readership. So, based on that, in what do you think? How books can be an effective tool in inculcating the concept of gender equality in children?
Uh, Thanks for your kind words, Gennia. Hope I'm correcting the name rightly. So, see, what I believe, what I've seen as a child, we have we have read almost more than 1,000 books, if we count 1,000 plus books since childhood till now. But what we have remembered till now, the images, the pictorial memory, right? You can remember the pictorial memory till the last breath, but you cannot remember the words which you have read in a novel. Okay, so if we go, uh, because I've been reviewing the books for this offshoot publishers, right? If you have heard about them, so I had the word with this and uh, executive content creator. Sorry, the executive manager, right? What do you call in publishing house? I'm not getting the right word. So I asked him, why do you publish books with so many puzzles and so many, alphabetical pictorial lines? So they told us we have conducted workshops where we have provided a reading book to the child and the same pictorial book in the same way to the child. He has answered the questions to all the pictorial questions, and what he has read, he answered of only 20 or 30% of them. So, as a child, I believe first thing that is a pictorial memory that plays a major role. Okay, and even to adults as well. Right now, we can see that the traditional publishers are going back to republishing of comics. Chacha Chaudhary, Bab Sabu, Tintin, right? We are again getting those comics published by the traditional publishers. Why? Because the history repeats. They know the technology and everything cannot replace the things which have, given the path part to the books. The Harry Potter also, if you read a Harry Potter, again talking about Harry Potter, sorry for that, but Harry Potter reading in a comic way and Harry Potter reading in a novel way, you will realize the difference and you will get to know what I'm trying to speak. Now, if we really the now Ishita told that pink color is for girls and the other black is for boys. Where is this mentioned? This thing has been made by us, our four generations. It's time immemorial, right? The dolls are for girls and cars are for boys. Why? So it's the wrong teachings that we have inculcated. in the time of Arjun's, even the girl used to hunt and the boy used to hunt and bring food for the family. There was nothing mentioned that the girl will wash the dishes, because during that time there weren't any dishes, right? Both used to do the same thing. There was gender equality during the Aryan period. And then even the when we are like, this uh, earlier ancient period and medieval, this gender equality and this thing, I believe that gender inequality came by the after the ancient history, I believe. In by the ending of ancient and starting of medieval, he started seeing this when this kings and all this came, and this divine theory. After the divine theory, things started, taking different angles, different interpretations. The fault here lies in the gender thing, is the root causes this misinterpretation of anything. And because of so many misinterpretations, we have created such a big tussle that now we are trying to fill the gaps and finding the loopholes and filling the, you know, and bringing out a path, a, a, a way forward. And it will take time. And the books not only play the major role to the children but to the adults as well. So when we are purchasing even a Barbie book, we should give it to a guy as well. You read this. You should read about Barbie. There's no difference or criteria that no, you read this only. What the Macho Man and all these books where the guy is fighting and winning the war and girl is cooking and baking or doing desert thing, right? So this thing, before books, we as humans need to, clean or yeah, flush the things which have flushed the wrong teachings from our parents or our elders, which they have taught us. With time we need to improve. I know we need to respect the traditions which are given, but we should also correct the things which were wrong taught by them. To learn something new, we have to forget something and erase wrong parts. But we should not illiterate or disrespect the teachings given by them, I believe. So, as a children, from the root, the journey of 1,000 miles begin with a single step, the code. So the journey of a single male or female starts with a certain one teaching, and how that one teaching, the sanskar we call it, कि संस्कारों से भरा रहना, गुणों और विचारों का होना. तो उन संस्कारों और गुणों और विचारों में ये सारी चीजें भी आती हैं, जो कि आगे चल के आपको एक महान व्यक्ति या महान पुरुष या अच्छा इंसानियत या ह्यूमैनिटी, we don't call it a male and female, we say आप में इंसानियत होनी चाहिए. You should have humanity. Humanity has no gender. It's equal, either male or female. तो बच्चों को ये सिखाएंगे आप, तो आप आगे चल के एक गौरववंत नेशन और उसकी एक सोच देख सकते हैं. थैंक यू.
Thank you so much. Now, coming to the same question, what is your take, Diksha?
Yeah, so I was thinking actually, like Suyogya said, that it's very important to actually move away from just talking about fiction and to look at gender equality and how we're introducing children to it in terms of the real world. I was thinking actually that we really need to focus on having our boys develop a reading habit, because I see a lot of my friends who are boys, who identify as boys, and they just don't have any reading habits since they were younger. Even my cousins, most of them, they just don't have that. And girls are usually, because they are told from childhood that it's better if you stay inside while boys are out either playing or doing other stuff, girls end up developing that reading habit and boys miss out on that. And when they grow up, the only way that they have to access that is through comic books. And we really need to make sure that that does not happen, that we are making sure that our boys are also reading, because reading is very important in order to look inwards, which is something that is seen as, sort of seen as a gender role ascribed more to women, that they're more given that responsibility of dealing with emotions, with feelings, understanding people and situations. And boys are more action oriented, they are more looking out towards the world, thinking about what they can do, how they can make changes in the world, career and everything. But girls always, they're told to look inwards. And reading is a great thing to teach our boys to do those same things, because that is very important for their own personality development. And we are making sure by doing that we're giving a sort of equal footing to both boys and girls. Because otherwise females, they're just going to grow up expecting a world, even if we have like books that showcase great examples of gender equality, we're showing worlds that are very equal towards boys and girls. But females, then they're reading those books and they're growing up thinking that that's the kind of world they're going to encounter when they go out in the real world, when they're finally out to go out of their homes. Whereas boys, they think of gender equality more as a concept, but because they've not read about it in those terms, they've not read about the struggles of women. Like, if you don't read about Little Women, you do not understand, the kind of endurance that women need to build up in their lives. How will that respect come for men in their own heads if they're not reading about it, if they're not experiencing it in the same way that girls do? So I think it's very important to actually focus on making sure that boys are reading.
Thank you, Diksha. Now, coming to the next section of the panel, where I'll be asking very direct questions to very direct, means very particular person. These questions are very specific for very specific people. Now, coming back to Suyogya, despite being a practicing attorney, you take out time for yourself to read and recommend. What books would you suggest for children that may be helpful in introducing and normalizing gender equality to them? And it'll be wonderful if you can connect your recommendations with reference to the gender gap you have experienced as a professional.
Uh, can I come back to this question after anyone on the speaker, if you don't mind?
Yeah, sure. Why not?
Yeah.
So let me move on to Ishita then. Ishita, you are an enthusiast for children's books. So, what kind of work is happening in this space with the recent publication? And what kind of male and female characters are introduced to the children by the authors? And feel free to recommend books as you answer this.
Yeah, sure. So a lot of work is happening in this space right now. Like I was speaking with people who have children, and I was doing my bit of own research. And these days, the topics like LGBTQ and disability, gender biasness, and racism, etc. Authors are writing on these topics in a very age and very sensitive, like in a very sensitive manner, so that we can teach these topics to children. Not like these are the taboo topics. If like LGBTQ is a taboo topic, and also racism, it's a taboo topic. So we are teaching, like these days authors are trying to teach children these topics so that they can become sensitive, and they can learn on these lines and not repeat the mistakes that our like ancestors have done in past, like what we have seen in history. And also any kind of book that, as you suggested, so my all-time favorite that I suggest everyone to read is Sudha Murthy. First of all, I remember one of her lesson about gender equality was that when she was when she passed her masters, I guess, and she was applying for the interview, sorry, for the job. So there was this job opening with Tata's, wherein like it was on the field role, if if like any of you must have read that story. So she applied, and she like was rejected by panelists because they told that they want a man, not a woman. And she wrote a letter to I guess the father of Ratan Tata ji, maybe, like, I don't remember the exact person, but yeah, it was some Tata. And he replied and he told, okay, then we can give you a chance. And then she got the job, and she is that it. So that one story that I remember. And also the recent books that I can recommend, I have written it. So one such is a Song of Freedom series by Penguin Publication. Like these are the stories about, like, many collection of many books about the stories about stories about independence, the time of independence, written for children. And they talk about issues that were at that time, gender equality being the one, and being taught to children. And another book that I really liked, like, I stumbled upon this book a few months back. It was Pink and Blue by Ritu Vaishnav. So this book talks about like those things wherein I mentioned earlier, that pink is for boys, sorry, pink is for girls, and blue is for boys. And like we say these kind of things to children. And the an attempt has been made by a mother in this book, to speak to her child, that these are the things that you will get to listen, but you should ignore that. And should not normalize these things in your brain. And should move forward with whatever thing is happening, and make your own opinion. And also another book, My First Book of Feminism for Boys. So this is the book, it's a very illustrated kind of book, and it's specially for boys, to teach feminism. uh, how much we talk about gender equality, always there's a first case scenario in mind of people, the minds of people, that we are talking about putting the girls forward. So this book talks about, it's not about always putting the girls forward. It's like making men and women, like treating them equally. Another is called Made by Ruffy. So this is the book. It's a very lovely book. You should read it. Like, purchase it right now. It's a very lovely book wherein a boy, he has this hobby of knitting sweaters. So he's very a shy kind of person. And in his class, I guess, people are making fun of him because he knits. And they tell him that it's a girly kind of thing, girly kind of activity. But he was making some present for his father, and then something happened. And at the end of the day, like, he like saved the day because of his knitting habit. That was like kind of story. So, and last book that I would recommend is Girls Are Not Chick. Like, it's a coloring book wherein in a very truly like very very funny manner, it's been taught that girls can like assume any kind of roles, any kind of career. They are not like chicks, what we say, like adults say chick. And for a kid, chick is like a bird. But like in a very sensitive manner, it's been taught to them. So these are my recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ishita. That was a wonderful list. Now, coming to Diksha. Diksha, would you like to, since you are a literature student, so you have read quite a number of books, despite your syllabus, obviously. So, what books are you reading currently? And would you like to name any book you wish was available to you when you were a child in order to train your mind to seek an equal society?
Yeah, so currently I just finished Midnight's Children by Salman Rushdie, and it's again a wonderful book, but once again, the hero as well as the anti hero is a male, and the hero specifically talks about how women have been the reason for for the unfolding of his life the way that it does. But they, once again, they're all in supporting roles, right? they're not the center of the story, which is something that irked me. But then once again, they do have a lot of agency, they are involved in a lot of the action, so perhaps I can still forgive that. What I do wish that we I could have read when I was younger is The Awakening by Kate Chopin. I recently read that, and it's a marvelous book. It's talking about how this woman is sort of trying to break away from her traditional role as a wife and a mother, taking care of the house. And it's a very new woman kind of concept from American literature back in the 20th century. It's amazing because it specifically talks about her psychological, her mental, emotional journey as she breaks away from those stereotypes without some kind of outside influence. It's all internal. It's all of her internal realizations, which is wonderful. And another series that I wish I could have read when I was younger is a series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket. I mean, I know that this isn't very on the face with the gender equality thing, but there are three children in these books. They're orphans, and their guardian, Count Olaf, is kind of trying to get their inheritance from them. He's a villain of the story, and he's trying to marry the one of the orphans, Violet, to get that money. And these three children come up with such ingenious ways of getting away from Count Olaf. It's absolutely wonderful. And the most important thing about it is that it is not that, I mean, these three children, they're just not ascribing to those traditional gender roles that we see in most children's books from, the earlier times. Like Violet is a very resourceful person. She's the one who's executing all of their plans, these wonderful crazy plans that they have to escape from Count Olaf. And Klaus is the one who is the bookish nerd kind of person. He's the one who's giving her the ideas, and she's the one who's executing that. And that is why I just love it, because it goes against everything that I had read when I was actually a child, where the girls are always in the sporting roles, never the one who are initiating the action. So yeah, I wish I had read that when I was younger.
Thank you so much. Could you repeat the name of the series that you talked about at the last?
Yeah, it's a series of Unfortunate Events by Lemony Snicket.
Unfortunate. Okay. Thank you so much, Diksha. Now, Suyogya, are you ready to answer your question?
Yeah, yeah. Thank you. I got a call
Yeah.
actually.
Okay, okay, no
So,
problem.
see, as a child, I have read, we used to have library period in our school, right? So it was a 1.5 hour period. So during that time, I used to read like Chicken Soup for the Soul, all-time favorite. I guess everyone have read here. Then there's Famous Wife, Secret Seven, and Adventures of Robinson Crusoe, The Black Beauty, like the girl who drank the moon, and Tom Sawyer, and especially the short stories that were provided in the Reader's Digest. Right. So these books have played a major role on me as a child. Okay. Because they had morals after every story. Also, in those books, they have also told us about what's a right touch and wrong touch that we teach today. They have told what's right, what's wrong, what as a boy one should do, what as a female one should do, in a form of story. Also, it played a great role in choosing what we really want to become. Because when we used to read those books, we like, huh, I want to become a pilot. Bablu the pilot, that you remember that cartoon you used to see. What? I want to become a cricketer. I want to become a lawyer. I want to become an engineer. So how we as a child used to see these things. We weren't allowed during that time much. We don't have much access to television and mobile phones like today's kids are having. So whatever we used to aspire to become, we used to see that, read that books, and ask our parents, what is this, what is it, what does this guy do, what this does this person do. And also they have told us like, okay, even if okay, if you're becoming a pilot, what will happen to you if you become a bad pilot. The cause and effect, the cause and effect theory, the deduction theory, the puzzling theory, the rational theory, the judge and the intellectual theory. So all these things were provided in the short stories, so that as we grow up, we can connect with the world. But today's the status quo says every second child is either involved in iPad or phone playing some random shitty games, especially PUBG. Even my niece, he plays PUBG, he's just 8 years old. The morning he wakes up, he wants to play PUBG. So, where are we going? I know this is wrong, but what to do? Because most of them as a parent, they're so busy in their life, they're not having time for their children. They are having a maids for their children. They don't have time for their own children. They're having separate maids, the maid who are not that well educated. So the time has changed, and it's going in a not in a better path. So these books, if we are given again as a course, like the NEP policy, which I really appreciate by the government, the practical application of the education on which they are focusing on. But still, the NEP is being misused by the private schools by inculcating the rich bureaucrats and the rich entrepreneurs children by getting them in their schools and giving them marks for free. Oh, your kid is genius. Again, there, whatever you want to do for development, the first comes the cons. So we need, this is my complaint. Either I'm talking in a sense of a lawyer because I'm too much of judging, but this is what I see and what I feel, and this is what I feel we lack in today's society. These books, these are the Bibles of our childhood, I hope, because when I mentioned the names of those books, you guys literally had smile on your face because you remembered what time, and you guys can connect with me. But children of today, they will fail 100%, and 80% of the parents as well. I am sorry, but it's the truth. Harsh truth and harsh reality. Thank you.
Yes, and coming to the last question of the session, if you were a Santa, what gift would you give to the children? I'll start with Ishita this time.
So I thought about this question. As a Santa, what I would gift is what I would have what I wanted as a child. So not anything like specific, to the topic of this session today, about not anything about gender equality or as such. Like when I was a kid, I wanted to, be just on with like be with Santa on that sleigh. I, wanted like things, for example, some, a new like a toy that I saw with like any of my friend, like with any of my friend, or any. I remember like there was a pencil box. It was, multifunctional pencil box, had a sharpener in it and everything. So I would want that from the center. So like in general answer would be that what a kid would want, उसको जो चाहिए होगा, I would give that kid as a Santa, like तू रख ले बेटा तेरे को जो चाहिए.
Thank you so much, Ishita. Coming to Diksha, what would be your answer to the same question?
Yeah, I'm going to go a little abstract here. I want to gift children the ability to explore books actually, because I feel like parents, if they are very excited about their kids beginning to read, they sort of had these reading lists that, oh, these are the books that my kid should read by the age of 10 or by 8. And they sort of give those children the same books, and if those children don't enjoy those books, they just don't learn to have a healthy relationship with books. They will not learn to enjoy something if they find the book boring. So I wish that we can be open minded enough to give kids the opportunity to explore books, different genres, whatever they wish. And I mean, I do understand that at a certain level we do need to filter content so that we are ensuring that there's good psychological mental development of children. But within that filtered content, at least just be a little open minded, like what you are allowing kids to do, and maybe let them do it a little more independently. Kids anyway have such a great tool. Internet is available to them. Let them find books on their own, let them make their own reading lists. And in that sense, I also wish that we have more libraries specifically for children, reading rooms that allow them to develop that relationship with books. It's a little difficult, but I mean, I wish that we can have that as a cultural practice. Not just these things are there, but we don't go, we don't visit them. There are a few people who might access these libraries or something. I wish that it can be a very normal thing for us as a society.
Thank you, and that was very thoughtful. Thank you, Diksha. And coming to Suyogya, if you would like to conclude the session with this last answer to the last question.
I would only give the gift of abundance of humanity. Rest they can achieve in their lifetime. The gift of humanity is something they will never achieve it in this current life. They need steps to achieve it. So this is something, if someone wants the gift of humanity for the progress of the world and progress of the human lives, connecting with the society and living a prosperous and peaceful life, so that we can have a sustainable life and sustainable living, where people living with peace, love and harmony, and in a united way. That's what we are lacking. And the answer to all this is only one thing, that's humanity. We have forgotten the humanity. We don't understand the humanity. The war is only between male versus female, power versus no power, loser versus winner. This thing. If we have the depth of understanding that one thing, I believe half our victory is halfway there. So I would like to conclude the session by saying that gender equality is something which cannot be talked in 1 hour. It needs a decade. And after this decade, again, there will be 4 or 6 people like us sitting and having a discussion on this. Again, different points. But remember, even during that time, if we won't have humanity, it will be a failure. So I can write a book on this, and to answer to every conflict or anything, it's all about humanity, because when we will have humanity, the we can follow the law, we will abide the law, we will respect each and everyone, we will be kind to each other, we won't be greedy. Today everyone is greedy, and this greed is something unending, and the fruit of patience is always sweeter. You just need to have sabrali as your best friend. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you for this very insightful and boosting conversation. And thank you for your time this evening. It was lovely having you all here. And this past 1 hour has been an eye opener for many, I hope, because it introduced to us means it introduced to us the concept of perspectives as well. Each one has a different perspective on this topic of gender equality, what gender means, what equality means, how we approach gender equality in our practice of it in our daily life, in our everyday life, what how we picture it in the how we picture it by reading books, and what's the real scenario when we step out into the real world. And it's a very good mix today, because we have a literature student who is soon going to step out into the professional world. We have Ishita, who is also working as a content creator, and we have Suyogya, who works in the field of legality, which actually devises rules or creates rules as to how to make the society work in a justified as well as a balanced manner, so that the balance, or rather, to put it in Suyogya's words, the humanity still goes on without any harm, or the justice of humanity, justice and humanity persists. So, this was a very good session. And I hope discussions such as these will continue for the next of our sessions, because these discussions are necessary for the exchange of ideas and the betterment of the future generation. Thank you so much. And coming to the last part of the session, Tell Me Your Story calls for submission on the story prompt Letters from Santa. Registrations are also open for the writing program season 9. We hope to hear from you. Till then, stay well, stay happy, stay together. Good night.